because it rains so much. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Everybody needs to subscribe because Mark here, he asks really good questions.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again.
That's not good.
So that's when I say, okay, you need to really learn how to do it right.
Nowhere, actually.
Scattered.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
1 second.
Yes, we need to.
How's it going, baby? How you living? How you living?
She still hasn't got any elephants, so it's a win-win so far.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
Follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first, and then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could hit the subscribe button, I greatly appreciate that. If you want to know what's coming up, you can hit that notification bell as well, but please be aware that we'll send emails to your inbox. And if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that's great. If you would like to ask a question of my guest on any of my live streams, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and that should pretty much give you instant access to the chat. And if you follow me over on Twitch, basically the same thing should happen. I will try to incorporate your questions as the interview goes along. As most people know that have been watching my interviews, I like to let my guests finish their thoughts, basically. I don't like to keep interrupting them with questions if I can. So just know that if you ask a question, I will get to it. If it seems like, how come he hasn't asked it yet? I will get to it. But again, I like to kind of make sure the flow of the interview is going in the best possible way for my guest. And then I will obviously incorporate those questions as I can. And hi, Ed, good to see you. Hopefully you're safe out on the road doing your thing with, actually, which band are you with right now? I know you've been doing quite a few tours, which is awesome, but I'm glad that you could join us. And again, I hope that you're safe out there. And Ove, good to see you over in Norway. You've been a strong supporter of what we're doing. And so let's get to things. My guest today is a well-known fine artist from Portugal. Her one-of-a-kind artistic style graces everything that she does. She is also the vocalist for extreme metal band Okkultist. We last connected on October 24th, 2020. Goodness, it is my great pleasure to welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Beatriz Mariano.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Beatriz. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great as well, and I'm just kind of getting my 24 years of life back together in this, this new little hobbit hole that I'm living in. But yeah, I've got a roof over my head. I have my health. I have an income. So things are actually going pretty well for me. So it's so nice to see you again after a year and some change.
It's been a whole fucking year. Like, where has time gone to? Like, how is that possible?
I don't know. It's really trippy, like, to watch some of the old, like our old interview. Just like, was that really that? It almost seems like in some ways it was longer ago, and other times it feels like it was, almost like yesterday that we had that conversation. And I want to say hi to Industrial Girl down in East LA. Good to see you. This is kind of a pet peeve of mine, not with you, just in general with media people. In that clip that I just showed from our old interview, you had mentioned that my interview that I'd done with you was your first one in 2020, that you had not done one. And did you happen to do one after that in 2020, or was that it?
That was it. Okay. And I didn't do any interview until today. No, did I? No, I didn't. The boys did it. I did not.
Okay, so there we go. One of my getting back to this weird little pet peeve thing is that I've seen a lot of media people talk about how they have an exclusive interview with, let's say, Beatriz Mariano, and then it could be a press day when you're talking to 12 different media outlets, and it's like, that's not an exclusive.
Yeah, it's not exclusive.
Yeah, it's an exclusive when the artist chose to specifically speak to you, or if it's a news report, and all the news channels want to cover whatever's going on, and then you say, I'm only going to talk to Channel 7 or whatever. That's an exclusive, and it bugs me to no end.
Exactly.
But that also means, I guess, knock for me is that it was an exclusive interview last year, and potentially this one might be as well, depending if you have something in the next 2 months or so.
For now, I don't have any interviews planned. I still had a few interviews requests before, I mean, in 2021, but they all landed on times where I just could not do it. Either no, it's like the only reason was because I was swamped with work and it was just impossible for me to take a few hours to get ready and sit down with the people, and I just could not do it. And right now I'm in between two works, so this is like perfect timing. It's like you always know when the timing is right. You're like a warlock of interviews. It's like you always know. And can I just say hi, Ed? I'm so happy to see you. Ed is awesome. Big Ed always tunes in the interviews, and it makes me so happy. And it also, Ed Ed kind of was a little bit of like my security in between air quotes on tour, and like, I don't know, he's just like so cool, and he's so supportive, and I don't know, I'm just overwhelmed, and it makes my heart so full. So thank you, Ed, for being here again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got a chance to talk to Ed twice virtually, and he mentioned about that thing of where you were trying to take some photos at a show, and I don't know if some fans were trying to give you a hard time or something, but he was like, not on my watch. So he got right in there.
Cool.
Kind of
yeah, they were being really obnoxious. I mean, I'm used to taking pictures in a crowd, and I'm used to being in the mosh pit taking pictures, but sometimes dudes think that they can just do anything, and there were a bunch of guys like trying to grab me, and I was like trying to ignore it because I was doing my job. But then I was like, is this shit like really happening like right now? And Ed just saw it with his like eagle eye, and he just went there and was like, fuck all y'all. And he just like opened up a little room for me to not be grabbed anymore. Oh my god. I'm sorry, Ed.
That's awesome, though. I mean, again, for me, getting a chance, and you know Ed better than I do, but I've had a chance to talk with him a few times now, and such a stand-up guy. And like he said, he won't put up with any kind of shit from someone that he cares about. So, and I see that you say that you're on. Oh, you started a tour today with Thank You Scientist. Okay, well, I hope you have a really successful and safe tour out there, and eventually you'll come back this way to see. Actually, I can't remember. No, I know the other tours you were on, you weren't here in Seattle. Sorry, I'm going to talk a random mind about what Ed had told me this year. But it's just great that bands are touring and getting a chance to be out there versus this time last year when it's like good grief. And let's see.
For us, it was bad because we planned on touring in 2020 because our album came out in 2019. And so 2020 would be the year to do it. And then it never happened because of COVID. I mean, we played shows in Portugal, and we played good shows, just like we did Vagos Metal Fest. It was awesome. It's probably one of the biggest festivals that we have here, if not the biggest. And we got to open for Vatain, which is like so dreamy for me because I love them. And so 2020, we wanted to take off, and we just simply could not do it. But yeah, I mean, it will be when it will be, and it's fine.
Okay, I saw Vatain here, and I can't remember if that was the gig where they had the regulation, so they couldn't have like the the pig heads or the other animal part stuff that they do on stage to give you that sense of death smell that they like to do. Were they doing that at the gig that you were just describing that you were a part of?
It was an open air thing, and it was just a shit ton of fire, just fire everywhere. Maybe because they were in Europe doing their thing, but it was a lot of fire. It was like I wasn't even in the front line. I was like in the middle, and I could feel it, and I was like, man, their shows really do feel like hell, and that's why I love them.
Yeah, I remember that gig specifically, how this is the atmosphere it's supposed to have for an extreme metal gig. Some of them, some bands, and I'm not going to name names, I do like their music and that kind of thing, but when you see them live, it almost feels calculated, like they're trying to be something, trying too hard to be dark and evil and whatever. Not that band. That band is, they just are what they are.
They're the worst of the worst, in a good way.
Absolutely. And Industrial Girl, I see that you say that was you last night at a show taking photos. What show were you at last night? I'm just curious, down in LA, in the photo pits and that kind of thing. But as you answer that, Beatrice, you just revealed some occultist news that you do have a concert coming up. Can you let everybody know who maybe missed that information?
Yeah, so we're gonna play in April with UADA. I don't know how to pronounce their name. I'm just gonna spell it. I'm so sorry. I couldn't find how. So I'm just gonna say UADA. It's a black metal band from North America, I believe. And they're touring Europe, and they're gonna play a couple dates in Portugal. And we got the opportunity to open the shows for them in 2 different towns, both Lisbon and Porto. So we're gonna do both. We're gonna be following them here in Portugal.
That's awesome. And I have a weird, not weird, but I have a distant connection to that band.
Oh, you
And
do?
yeah.
How do I pronounce their name?
Well,
Ueda? No, I don't say it like that. Doesn't sound right.
here's the funny thing. I was actually hoping that you knew, because I don't know. Every time I see it, I was like, yeah, it's a UADA.
Nobody knows.
UADA.
I'm just gonna say UADA because I don't know how. Dudes, if you're watching this, I apologize.
Yeah, they're a great black metal band from the Portland area,
Yeah.
and my distant connection to them is that let's see, this was in 2000, so a long time ago. There's a site called mp3.com, and you could upload your music, and if people listened to it, they actually paid you out residuals. So it didn't matter who you were; it could be somebody like me, just from your apartment, kind of a thing. And anytime you search like black metal for like the Northwest, 2 bands came up. It was Jake, who's UADA's founder, which he was in ceremonial castings, was his duo back then. And then my project, In Carpathia, would come up. Those are the only 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all these years later, I saw, when UADA's first album came out, Devoid of Light, I want to say. Sorry, Jake. We connected again, and he remembered my project, because we sit there and kind of look at, try to think, well, other cool Northwest black metal bands are there? And there were none at that time. It was just the 2 of us. So I remember he sent me an album, and I had he's autographed everything. So we did a written interview, but he doesn't like to do this. He doesn't like to do live streams or video things. Tries to keep the mystery around the band and all that kind of stuff. A really cool guy. And they've really taken off. They've had 3 albums out now, so that's going to be a great show to be a part of, or shows to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And well, when the time comes up, that I'm definitely gonna bring this up and tell them that we know each other.
There you go. Yeah, that was so strange and I think he actually resurrected ceremonial casting. So like they put out some kind of record thing, but again, his band was actually starting to play gigs around Seattle and the Northwest and all that stuff. I was working out of my apartment. It was not quite the same. Yes, I still have those demos for people that want to actually like listen to them and laugh or whatever.
I want to. I want to listen to them.
I'll have to send you something so you can kind of see where my head was at 21 years ago.
I'd like to know.
Okay, yeah, actually, it would have been longer, because that's when I put them on that site. It was back in the 90s when I was working on that stuff. So it's really, really ancient 4-track analog recordings.
Oh my God, I'm curious though.
I will make sure I get something to you so that you can check out, with those rough demos, things sound like back then of me, before all of this ever happened. Yeah. And see that industrial. Oh, yes, Davey Suicide. Okay, yeah, I know Davey was here with, I think Comba Christ was part of that show, if I remember right, or the part of that tour that came through Seattle recently. So let's kind of go into some things about, let's actually start with some recent things, because I know as we're scheduling this, you mentioned that on Saturdays you've been going to an animal rescue, animal shelter. I know it's something that you've been posting about, and I know they're kind of looking for some support as well. So can you kind of speak to what's going on with this organization?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad I didn't know you were going to ask about this, and this is why I love interviews with you. It's because you always ask the questions nobody asks. So I'm more than happy to talk about that. So I would say something like a month and a half ago. So it's like I'm gonna tell the long story. I'm really connected to this awesome and talented lady called Sonia Tavaj, who says she's my satanic mom. I kind of think of her as my adoptive mom. Sorry, dyslexic. Her and Fernando, who is the singer of Moonspell, I kind of see them both as kind of like my adoptive parents in a really affectionate way, if this makes sense. Um, and I saw that my mom, I call her mom. So I saw that my mom, I'm gonna say it like that, posted about them on Instagram. And do you know when you think about something or something has been in the back of your mind for a while and then poof, it just happens like right in front of you? I was thinking for a long time how I wanted to physically work with animals and do stuff with animals because I've been vegan now for I've been vegan for 5 years and meatless for 10. I think I don't know. I didn't really mark on a calendar when did I turn vegetarian or vegan, but it was around that time. And I've always been, you know, I try to be the voice for animal rights, just like all of us that are in this area try to, and I try to speak for animal rights. And I've done campaigns, I've done petitions, and I've been ambassador of campaigns, just like the $1 Million Vegan, organized by We Are Veganuary, which is one of the biggest platforms. And I was honored to be one of their ambassadors here in Portugal. They had like athletes and actors and then me, and I was like, okay, like the fuck am I doing here? I'm nobody. So but I was really happy to do it and to speak for the campaign and to be one of the faces of the campaign. They even came to my house and filmed me here. They did like a little interview. It was really cool. So I just felt like it was not enough. It was not enough to just speak out on them publicly, do the campaigns, petitions, be the face of these things, donate money, donate goods. Like, it's not enough. Like, there are still ways that you can help. So I was thinking so like aggressively about this subject that one day I saw my mom post about this sanctuary, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even realize that Portugal had sanctuaries, because I follow pages like the Barn Sanctuary or Mootley Zoo or pages like that, or Goats of Anarchy, pages like that. And I'm always like, I wonder if I should start a sanctuary, if I should start rescuing animals and trying to take care of them myself, because I don't see that here. But suddenly she posted about that, and I went through their page and I immediately contacted them, and I was like, hey, how do I volunteer? Are you guys taking volunteers? Can I come in and help? Can I come meet you guys first? Like, because I wasn't sure if it was going to be an environment where I was going to feel comfortable in, not because of the animals, but because of the people. I'm so sorry to say it like that, but it's true. And it's one person called Ricardo, and he is super nice. He also works with rehabilitation of animals and animal behavior. So he really is a professional at what he does, and he does a lot for these animals all by himself. It's a really big farm. I think it's really big. There are tons of animals, and he does all of that by himself. And I was super impressed. And I learned all this the first day I was there, obviously. And then I guess he likes me, and he has expressed how he likes the way the animals are around me as well. And he feels like I am a contribution to the sanctuary. So I kept on going, and I'm going more and more. I was like, at first he was like, at least if you can come like every 2 weeks for a few hours, that would be great. Suddenly I'm there every Saturday. Suddenly I'm there every Saturday and a few days of the week at the same time. So it's just, I love it. It's exactly what I was asking for. I love to spend the days there. I go early in the morning and I leave late at night, and I'm there to help him clean up, change their beds, give them food, give them cuddles, because they need affection and attention as well. It's not just oh, have some carrots, like they like to be with you and they like the interaction, and it's good for them. Sometimes there are times where you feel they are stressed out, and it's so rewarding to see that you are able to calm the animals down and be there for them, and it makes them happy. and it makes me happy to see them happy. Or even sometimes when sometimes animals get sick, which is, I mean, normal. It's like so many animals, and anything can make them sick. To be there for them and physically care for animals who need help, it's the most rewarding feeling in the world. And it's just like I was telling you, it's everything I've been asking for. And it's, again, one more step of things that I can do to help animals. I feel like, honestly, this is gonna sound really mean, but it's like there's so much more worthy than people. I don't know. The more time goes by, I'm just like, fuck people, fuck humanity. I'm so tired of people. It's like, the fuck is wrong with y'all? So, I'm sorry. I like people. It's just I like them and I don't like them at the same time. So I would rather devote my time and effort into animals, because at least I know that they appreciate the help and they appreciate me. So, yeah, it makes me really happy to be able to help them.
Well, that's wonderful that here you are, putting out basically that energy to the universe, and then the universe came answering by giving you this opportunity that just you weren't even necessarily looking for. It just kind of happened through your satanic mom posting about something and giving you that information. And that's awesome when things, life can be so random that way. When you're like, God, I'd really love to be able to do something. And then, a day later or whatever, it's like, oh shit, someone just connected me to something that I was just thinking about. And I love that kind of thing. And especially like you said for yourself, it also shows that you're trying to do something more than just what you were already doing, which is a lot. I'm not trying to downplay what you were already doing with campaigns and anything else for veganism and vegan and animal rights. But then you said, well, what else can I do? And then now you found an opportunity and you're like, well, I want to survey the sanctuary, make sure it's going to be a good fit for me and everything else. And it turned out it was a great fit for you. And the animals are responding to you. So there's something there already, because that's, most people know that animals have like a sense to them. They can kind of tell when they want to be around somebody and when they don't want to be around somebody. And it could be something as simple as a cat or a dog to, all the other types of animals that you're working with on the sanctuary. They know when there's something off with you, or they're like, you're a mean-spirited person, or something's, just not good with you. And so that should be telling the owner of the sanctuary a lot when he saw how they were responding to you. It's like, I want this person to keep coming back if they're willing to and spend more time, because it could have been your heart could have been in the right place, and then you went around these animals and they're like not responding to you at all. Then you'd be like, oh well, maybe you can help out a little bit here and there, but not add more to your plate. But in this case, no, it's the opposite. It's like, add as much as you feel comfortable doing. So that's wonderful.
It makes me truly so happy. And in this past year, it's so funny because like when you posted that clip of our interview, and I was like, I'm doing great. And I remember so vividly that, I'm sorry to say this, but I was so miserable in that time that whatever I was feeling at that time, I felt like it was the best I had ever been, and it was not. And I can tell you, Mark, that today I feel the best I've ever been in my entire life. And this also happened because in this year that we have not had like an interview in between, I had to learn how to be selfish. And I had to learn that sometimes to be selfish is a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I feel like in January, something clicked in my head and I was like, you know what? I don't deserve to be miserable. I know I'm not a bad person. I don't deserve to be miserable. So I'm just going to go after the things I know I deserve and that I know are good for me and that are meant for me. And that's exactly what I did. And I don't know how to tell you how happy it makes me to be around them and to be able to help them out. And I mean, I've had days where I go there and I don't know, like work is stressing me out or fucking Mercury is doing whatever the fucking shit it's doing from time to time. And the animals, I mean, because we start to get to know each other as well and we start to make connection with the animals, they understand. There was a really sweet episode. They had just rescued 2 donkeys. And I was visiting them for the first time at the sanctuary. And the night before had been terrible for me. I had I had loads of like stomach pain and I had just other stressful things related with work, which I mean, it always happens. It's like normal. And you get used to dealing with that type of stuff. But in the moment, it's stressful. And I was even telling Ricard the night before, like, I don't know if I can go. I'm not feeling well. And I don't know, like, I don't want to be there and not feel good and stress the animals out because of me. I don't want that because they have to be at peace. And if I cannot bring them peace, I don't want to go. And he's like, no, I'm begging you to come. You have to come. They love you. You have to come. So I did. I followed his advice. But I promised myself that I was not going to touch any of the animals because this thing becomes physical too. Like if you're stressed out and you pet them and you touch them, they feel your stress. And I don't want them to feel bad. I want them to feel good. So I promised myself I was not going to touch any animals. I was just gonna do the cleaning, give them the food, but not engage because I was not feeling well. And I remember he was like, "The donkeys aren't here. Do you want to see them?" And I was like, "Yes, I do want to see them. I want to see all of them." And I got in there, and they have like, it's a stable, and it's like a really big room where they have lots of space, and you can see them. You have like a little fence where they can put their head through. It's like a big room for them. It's not like a closed box like they have in horse schools. It's like a big area for them where they have like beds and food and all that. But I was standing by the fence and I was looking at them and I was thinking, wow, they're so beautiful. And they had just come from an abusive place. They were full of like cuts and wounds. And I was just like, wow, they're so beautiful. And I cannot believe that someone was mean to them. And one of them came towards my direction and he started to get like really up close. And I was just like standing there. I was like, I'm not going to touch him. I'm not going to touch him. And he puts his head through the fence and he pushes his head like onto me, onto like my face and my chest. Like he starts pushing against me. And Ricard goes, he's giving you a hug. That's how donkeys hug. He's hugging you. And he was like rubbing his head on my shoulder and like he was rubbing on me. And I just hugged him back. And I just wanted to cry just because tears of joy. I was so emotional and so happy to like hug him. And we stayed like that for like 20 minutes. I don't know. He was just like rubbing his head on my head. And we were just like donkey hugging for like a really long time. And Ricardo was like, this is why you needed to come. Because even when like you're feeling upset, it's like sometimes they feel upset and you know how to make them feel good. And sometimes you are upset and they know how to make you feel good because you start making this connection with the animals. And it makes me so emotional, this type of stuff. And I almost want to cry right now because animals feel as well and they make connections and they have feelings, they have experiences, they have memories. And it's so beautiful. And I don't know how to tell you how this place has been so good for me. It's like everything that I've always wanted to do. And I know I will never be able to help every single animal that is out there in the world, but the fact that I get to be with a few of them and help them out, the ones that are there and that need help, it's just, I don't know. I don't have the words. It's so beautiful.
Well, a couple things. One, I'm really glad that you're genuinely in a better place now. And I think Ed kind of mentioned the same thing. And but also too, that they've talked about that there's a couple guests I've interviewed that have ranches. So they have horses and cattle and everything else you can think of under the sun, donkeys. And they've talked about how, Mark, a horse can feel a fly land on its back. That's how in tune they are with, other people's emotions, feelings, touching, that kind of thing. So imagine like if you get on the horse and you're, some shitty kind of person, basically, it's going to transfer down to the horse. The difference is, and as you just expressed, is that everyone has a bad day, including animals. And so they can also kind of pick up on that you're having a bad day. And so let me kind of try to basically be the support system for you, knowing that you could use a pick-me-up. And clearly in this case, that's what happened for both of you, between the donkey and yourself. And I think anyone that ever has owned a pet at any time in their life understands that. If your dog comes up to you, your cat comes up to you, they know when you're having one of those shitty ass days and they're trying to, put a smile back on your face, basically, or just show you some love, and vice versa. So that's why I think, and you're not alone when it comes to a lot of people saying, I'm just so tired of people. I'm just so tired of their bullshit. They're, not being trustworthy, honest, straightforward, backstabbing, critical, all that crap. Animals don't do that. They just kind of know how they want to exist, how they want to survive, how they want to, if they're part of a pack, all these kind of things. You don't see them fucking each other over. You just don't.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
Animals only know how to survive, and they don't have this thing about, I don't know, Mark. I could go on and on and on about this subject, and this is why I admire them so much and why I respect them so much. And this is so funny because I was having this talk with the owner, and I was like, the animals respond to him in a way that I'm like, everybody's in sync in that farm, and that shows that he is a good person and that he takes good care of them. Like, it shows that it's a good environment for them, and that's why I wanted to go meet the place first, because some places are not doing it for the right reasons, or I don't know, but that place really is so pure. And I was telling him, like, the animals, they have so much respect for you. And he's like, they don't respect me. They're animals. They trust me. I respect them, but they trust me. And I'm like, okay. My mind has been completely blown away. And it's so true. And just like you're saying, they can sense everything. If they sense that if they sense you're not a good person, they're not going to be around you, So God, it's like, I could talk about this subject forever. And sometimes I even tell him, like, Ricardo, if you feel like I'm not doing enough work, like, please tell me. Like, if you feel I'm not being fast enough cleaning or feeding, or if I'm not doing a good job, you just tell me, like, what else can I do? And he says, every person has different jobs around the animals. Some people come here and they're really good at cleaning, but they don't really have the type of connection with, or know how to connect with the animals like and sometimes I just want you to come to be with them because they need attention and they need to be with someone who is sensitive. And he thinks I'm a very sensitive person, and that the animals respond well to that. And one of the days where I was even taking pictures of the animals, one of the goats was playing with me, and he came up really close to me, and we were making a whole photo shoot, and he was being like super model. It was so cute. And then he was like, his name of the goat is Bandit. In English, Bandit. And he was like, Bandit doesn't like people and he doesn't get close to people, but he was all over you and he gets close to you and he was posing for you. I mean, he was smelling the lens and he was smelling me and he was like letting me pet him. And he was like, the only people he lets get close to him is myself and now you, and you've been here for like a few weeks, so he's really, really happy that I'm here, I guess. Like, so that's the best reward, is when they connect with you and like you walk in and they come greet you and they know you, and oh my God, I don't know. It's the best thing in the world.
Well, and seeing that, and that just goes back again that Bandit obviously had a sixth sense about you. So this is somebody that I feel that that I could trust, and I want to get near you and be in your world and your space and your presence, and you can't fake that. I think that's probably, that's what I was trying to get to with animals, is that they have like the ultimate bullshit detector. They know. And I'm seeing other people saying, your expression, the joy in your face, and everything's so wonderful. Just they can tell what you're saying. It's coming through you right now. It's like you're channeling, pure joy. So everything you're saying is really connecting with, people that are watching this right now, including myself. So it's a beautiful thing, and that's I love it seeing people that are happy and doing what they want to be doing. And I, not to talk too much about myself, but I do remember when I used to be a teacher that, and maybe I don't think I talked about this during our live stream, but maybe another one.
I don't think so.
Oh yeah, so many moons ago, I used to be a teacher right out of college. That's what I used to do for like 7 years straight. And then, but where I was on a suburb of Seattle. So, middle class to maybe some upper class families. And so this is like when like the whole gangster gang banging movement was, fairly new, because this was early 90s. And so sometimes we would have students come into our district that came to our building. And in my homeroom class, they started giving me all of them. I'm kind of like, why are you getting, I mean, I don't mind having my fair share, but there's other teachers in this building too that have homeroom classes, so can't you kind of spread them around? And they say, well, Mark, you just have a good way of working with them. And I'm like, well, that's a nice compliment, but I mean, that doesn't mean other people can't learn to work with them or open themselves up and have actual conversations with these 13 and 14-year-olds. We're not talking about 18 and 19-year-old young people. And most of those kids were exactly that. They're kids. They're kids that have made some bad choices. They don't have a support system, and they need someone to talk to them, to listen to them, maybe actually ask them how they're doing, and all these kind of things that we just kind of take for granted. And I guess my point being is that there's something about, in that respect, that those kids were relating to me, and it continued on to my next job. Well, 2 jobs later, where I was there for 10 years working with nothing but urban inner city kids that were involved with gangs and drugs and alcohol and violence and all that kind of thing. And these were kids that were 12 or 13. They're even younger. But I think there's some kind of parallel between certain, if it's groups of people, if it's animals that relate to certain people that come into their world, and they also find other people that they don't want any fucking thing to do with. And so I think it's just wonderful that you found this gift really in your life that is giving you so much joy, and you're giving so much of it back too. This is a two-way street, that it's just going to keep growing and growing from that. I mean, it's just something that you clearly love doing this, and it's a huge part of who you are. So it's really exciting to kind of see what you might be doing, even a few years from now in this regard. Like, where is it going next, or what's it going to branch out into? Because it's something that is, it's extremely a part of who you are and what you love and what you want to be known for.
That makes me admire you even more, because that's not easy. And it just shows that you have a really big and a good heart, because I don't think any person, you're saying like, it's true that people can learn how to work with that type of kids that, there's just nothing wrong with them. It's just like you're saying, they just need someone to listen to them. And you were there for them, and you listened to them, and you treated them the right way, and they connected with you. It just shows that you have a really big heart, and that there are like good people out there like you, Mark, and you're gonna inspire these kids to grow up and be good people as well, and just move out of these paths that they probably don't want to, or they were put in without understanding where they were in, and thanks to you, they can go in the right direction in their lives, and then they can go out and grow to be good and kind people thanks to you.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's something that you and I have in common about being very empathetic people. I think having a clear conscience, a good heart. Intentions are always the best of intentions. That doesn't mean that I don't come up short sometimes, but it's never on purpose. It's not something I'm trying to piss somebody off or trying to offend somebody. It's just like, that's the way I took it. It's really different if you have intention, and I use this word all the time during my live streams, that I'm purposely trying to do something to you, to harm you, to put you in a negative light or whatever, even like with guests. That's the last fucking thing I want. I want them to feel good. I want them to feel it's a safe space. They can be themselves. They can talk about what they want to talk about, and know that I'm not going to sit there and start needling them and trying to get some sort of clickbait shit out of them so I can stick it on social media. It's like, that's just not me. And I think actually Ed's wife had said something really nice about that. Mark's a really nice guy, after they had watched 1 or 2 of my interviews. And I'm like, that's a huge compliment to me, because I try to be. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm trying to be a nice person. And I think we could use some more of those people in this world. And things would be we'd be in a better position globally than we are, because there's such a cesspool of shitty people out there. But if you find the right people, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but when I did that tour last year, the virtual tour with Alice, they're wonderful, amazing people. And so I started to feel like I found my tribe. I found these people that I can add on to through their connection. So it's like, if you're cool with them, then I'm cool with them. If you like, I know Ed talked to me about a band I wasn't actually familiar with, about trying to do an interview with. So I'm like, if Ed's cool with them, then I'm cool with them. So let's try to make this thing happen. I'm sorry, Ed. I know you probably were like, Mark, when you can do that interview with Black Satellite, but I would like to talk to them. I know they're back out on the road right now, but yeah, it's kind of like I don't even have to think about it. Same like for you, Beatrice. If you're some Mark, I really love this painter. It's just amazing. That's here in Portugal. And if you ever have a moment to talk to him or her or however they identify, then I'd be like, okay. I mean, you don't have to say anything more to me because I respect you that much. And I don't always say that about people. Other people are like, well, let me kind of look into it and see what they're about, and I might find out that I don't really like I don't really like this person. I don't want to talk to them. But there's other people where it's like, no, I don't have to think twice about it. So you're definitely in that category.
You're the best. This is why you're the best. Like, honestly, and I'm the same way. It's like, let's keep using Ed as an example. That you're listening. It's like if Ed tells me this person is cool, then I'm cool with that person. It's exactly the same way. Ed takes no shit. Ed is not friends with shit people, so I know he's gonna be a good person. So it's exactly the same, and this is why you're so cool. It's like you only get the cool people here. Not to me. Oh my God. Okay, that didn't. Okay, yeah, but it's true. It's true.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, and I do these things where I bring different guests together that I've interviewed, and then so they've never actually met each other in most cases, and we just kind of shoot the shit for a while. There's a level of trust that goes into that with them, and I understand it because there's been a couple of guests like, well, Mark, who are the other guests that you're going to pair me with, and can I see their interviews or kind of do some stalking of them, basically, internet stalking kind of thing. Who are these people? And I told them, no, I okay, Ed, yeah, we'll keep using you as an example all the way through this live stream because you're the perfect person to talk about. It's true though, because like if I reverse the roles, like if someone said, Mark, we want to do this live stream with you and two other interviewers, and I don't know them, I probably would be a little anxious about it because I'm like, well, maybe they're completely 180 degrees from me, or I don't want to be associated with them because they're like shitty people or whatever it is. But maybe they have to be fairly good at their craft. I want to know ahead of time. I don't want to be put into a situation like that. So I totally get it when a musician doesn't know an actor who doesn't know a dancer, and they're like, but at the same time, they can kind of think that, well, Mark, I've done a couple of interviews with you. I know how you are, so I think you're going to probably put me with the right people. And knock on wood, that's been the case every time. So I've been really fortunate that I haven't had some sort of shouting match or some kind of, fuck you situation. And during those things, it's been the complete opposite, where they've actually connected and want to do things outside of that on their, together. I just had an actress from Canada and a vocalist from Chile, and they want to help each other out because the actress wants to learn how to sing and the singer wants to learn how to act. So it's like they're already doing stuff outside of this. So I'm like, that's awesome. I love that amazing. Kind of thing. Yeah.
Only you know how to do this type of stuff, Mark.
Well, I guess so. I just know I enjoy working with good people, and if I get a chance to connect good people with other good people, then I'm happy to do it. And I completely understand when, especially with schedules and all the shit going on outside in society, that when things don't happen, I don't ever get butthurt about scheduling things at all. And it's not funny to me, but sometimes I can tell when guests are like they feel so bad about having to say no, and I'm like, that's not a problem. Truly, it's not a problem if you can't. I don't even need to know the reason. If you can't make something, or if you need to reschedule it, or you just don't feel like doing it, that's okay. What I have a problem with is when someone expresses interest, and then I say, okay, how about these days and these times? And they don't hear anything, and I got to follow up, and that stuff gets annoying to me. But if you say no, I can respect that. I mean, I say no all the time to people and to films to review and all that kind of thing. It's just more of a common courtesy thing, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if Mark ruled the world, oh God, that would be a scary ass place. But thank you for the compliment, Ove. I'd have to come visit you in Norway and get some tips from you what you need help with in your country if I was ruling the world. But so just randomly, since we're talking about the sanctuary and all the work that they're doing, do you ever see yourself then perhaps having your own sanctuary 10 years from now, or something even grander than that, or just adding on to the one that you're working at? What kind of wishful thinking is kind of in your head at this point that may or may not come true?
I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately, and it's very complicated because part of me wants to create my own sanctuary, or I don't know, gather forces with the one that I'm working with and make something bigger together. But another part of me is like a wild spirit, and I belong to the world, and I don't know if I could stay in one place a really long time. What I would love to do, and what I try to do wherever I go, then help there, and then I go to a different place, and then I help there, and then at the same time I'm still helping a lot of places at the same time. I would love to, and I guess it's easier to say that if I ever decide to settle down in my life and think, okay, now I'm gonna live in this place forever, then certainly I would start doing that and I would make my own sanctuary. But right now I feel like the world is calling for me and I need to go. And wherever I will land, I will help in whichever way I can in that place. And I think for a while I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm still helping animals, just not in one place, in multiple places. And um I mean, but I mean, I don't really know. It's like I don't know if 5 years from now I'm still gonna have this urge to travel the entire world, or if I'm gonna finally want to like settle down and be a regular person. I guess it's so hard to think of myself as a regular person when I feel like I have so many goals and objectives in life and things that I want to do, and I feel like I don't have enough time to do them. Um, so I guess if I ever decide to settle down, I will definitely either, like I said, start my own or gather forces with the one that I'm working at, just because I really like it there. I really like Ricardo and I really like the other volunteers. And, I've, of course, bonded with the animals. I like them all. Now I feel like I could never go back and not go there. So I don't know. That's such a hard question.
Well, it makes sense what you're saying, because it becomes, this is such a fulfilling piece of you right now, but you also have all these other, clearly all these other endeavors that you're a part of artistically. And if there's a bit of wanderlust in there that you want to, especially after this last year and a half that we've all been going through, it's like, I want to get out there and I want to take my band on the road, or I want to visit this art museum, or I want to do all these painting workshops, or all these kind of things, a clothing line. And that you just have, like everyone's trying to do, and I think in their life, is trying to find that balance. Where do I have all of these things at this moment? Because they shift. I mean, I'm freaking 51, and if you had told me I would be doing this 10 years ago, I would have been like, you're freaking crazy. What are you talking about, doing some media outlet thing and talking to artists from around the world, and photographing bands and being at musical theater and all this kind of stuff? I'm like, it wasn't even a random thought in my head back then. Yet here I am, talking with you, and all these kind of things. So it's really, really interesting. In the words of Mr. Lawless, she's a wild child. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a Wasp reference, especially with them going back on the road next year from Ed. I'm just saying that. But and I'm also, so how many animals do you have in your own place? Do you have cats and things, or how many animals are there?
I have, here where I live,
Yeah.
I have 2 dogs.
Okay.
So I have 2 greyhounds. And we've had one greyhound called Bowie for 9 years. No, for 8 years. He is 9. He turned 9 this year. We got him when he was 1. So yeah, he's been with us for 8 years. And we used to have a beagle that stayed with us for 15 years. And he passed away last year, like a week after I came back from the US. It's like he was waiting for me to come back. And it was really heartbreaking. Like last year was just one thing after the other. And I was like, I can't take this anymore. So, and that was one of the things that made me really sad last year, and why it made me so miserable too. And just, it didn't feel right to get another dog. And I didn't want to get another dog. I feel like people see pets as a, how do you say, like a safety net for their emotional state. And that's not true. Like, they're sentient beings. Like, they need to be taken care of. They're not here to take care of you. Does this make sense? And people rely on animals a lot, like emotional support, and I don't like that. They like animals are with us to enjoy themselves and to be happy and to have a happy home and to have a warm bed and food anytime that they want, you know. So it didn't feel right to get another dog. But then I started noticing how Bowie started acting differently, and he was with us all the time. He started doing this thing where he would go to a different room all by himself, almost like he was fed up of being with us, and we were like, okay, he needs time. He doesn't want to be around us right now. And sometimes that was a little tough to deal with because I could sense that he was like emotional or upset or something, and he didn't want to be around people, but I felt like he needed to be around other animals, other fur babies. So a year later, we saw this ad. This was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Wait, no, 3 weeks ago we got another dog. Yeah. But before that, we saw this ad for this other greyhound who was 8 years old, and he was in emergency condition. So he needed like an urgent forever home. And we looked at the pictures and we were all like, he's so sweet. We need to bring him home. And we went to the organization that had him. They had rescued him, and he had just got there, and he was completely full of wounds, like open wounds. His teeth are completely shaved down because of the muzzle that they make the dogs wear to race. He has loads of discharge bits from the guns that they fire to start the races, like under his skin. Like you will pet him and you will feel like the little metal discharges like under his skin. And he's completely blind from his left eye, and one of his ears has two huge holes from the ID tag, just like they do on cows. They'll do that on them too. They didn't know exactly what happened to him, but there were like 100% of indications that he was a racing dog and he had been exploited. He was very muscular as well. And his back legs and tail are just calluses. Like he has never had a bed. He just slept on the floor his entire life. Like hair doesn't grow in those areas of his body. So much that when we brought him home 3 weeks ago or 2.5 weeks ago, he got to bed and he slept for like days in a row. And we were like, is he sick? Is he okay? And then we were like, he probably never had a bed. And he's like enjoying it now. And he loves bed. Go to sleep. Like he would rather go to bed than to go eat. Like sometimes we would give him food and he was like, nope, I'm not getting up. I love my bed. I'm not getting up. So we've been also rehabilitating him and taking care of him. He doesn't have any wounds anymore. They're all like closed up. I've been rubbing all of his calluses and dry areas with almond oil, and now hair is starting to grow back in those parts, or at least the skin. Some parts of the skin is completely closed up again. And on his tail, he has way more hair than he had when we first saw him. And there's nothing we can do about the teeth because they're completely shaved down. They're not going to grow back. We cannot do anything about his eye because he's completely blind. And we cannot restore his ear. But he has been just so happy and grateful all the time. He is always in such a good mood. And both, we called him Ozzy. And both Ozzy and Bowie, at first Bowie was super shy because he's a very reserved dog. He's like, why is this here? I'm the only child. Who is he? Why is he here? He was super confused. But now they really like each other and they sleep together. And we feel like their moods, like they help each other out. Bowie feels much happier now and much more like, what are we gonna do today? Because now he has a friend, you know. And Ozzy is just relax. The first few days, of course, he was a little nervous because like, where am I? Where is this place? But he immediately relaxed, and now he's just a super happy dog. Just wants to cuddle and play. And there has never been one conflict between them or us. So we've also been rehabilitating this second greyhound, who is just the cutest baby ever.
Well, that's amazing. That it just kind of, I guess it's like what we were talking about. It shows you when an animal's been completely abused, mistreated, and when like you were talking about the parts from the guns when they're using them for racing got under his skin. I wasn't even aware of that kind of thing. So I'm learning something, but two, that providing a safe space, caring for him, giving him a bed, so that he understands that every day when he gets up, this is now your sanctuary. This is now a safe place to be. And then watching him thrive and coming back because you give a shit about him is it's just amazing. And I'm sure you're probably somebody that's in this mindset of like, I wish I could help every animal that's out there. Realistically you can't, but it's like you do what you can, and you're obviously doing something huge with this. And also look at the effect that it had on Bowie, because now he's got this new friend there, and now they're kind of vibing off of each other, and it's everybody wins then. So, and I think you make a really interesting point early on when you were talking about this too, that so many people, and especially here in America, use animals as support things. They use it as like an object that can somehow make them better, instead of treating them basically on an equal footing. And you see it all the time, and let alone if it's even being abused in that situation where it's like, this is my support animal. It's like, well, why do you have a support animal in the first place? There's some other issues that need to be worked on. That's not through an animal per se, and putting that on them. Let alone if you're not even doing that for the right reasons, and you're just calling it that so that you can get some sort of perk or something that makes your life easier. Because that's been happening a lot when it comes to like travel and going places. Oh, this is my support animal. It's like, you're basically a piece of shit. And I understand if people disagree with me. That's fine. That's why we have live streams, and we have some level of democracy depending on where you live. But I just I don't get it. And where I'm at now, I don't have any kind of pet. I used to have guinea pigs, which I think I mentioned before.
So cute.
They have since passed on. But the place I'm in now does allow pets. So once I'm looking at all the boxes and all this random shit that's around. So I'm like, once it kind of looks like an actual person lives here, who doesn't, it's not like a storage unit, then perhaps I'll venture down that path again. And I do have, I can't even see it here, but this has got to go back up on my wall at some point. I'll make sure I don't do anything to it.
Oh my God!
I don't think you can even
I'm
see it.
so jealous. Yeah, we can see it. Yes, we can. I'm so jealous.
This was in my other bedroom for I don't know how many years. Once I met Clive Barker, and that's why it says "To Mark, best wishes" is signed by him. This one sheet that I have, and I know again we, what a huge Doug Bradley Pinhead Hellraiser fan you are, because you have it right on your tattoo.
Yeah,
right
I do.
on
It's
you.
covered right now, but I got a video from him last year, like a little video. This was a surprise from a fan, Lisa. She's so cool, and I was teaching her makeup classes, and one day she goes, "If you could ask Doug Bradley anything, what would you ask?" And I was like, "Why are you asking that question?" And she's like, "Because we're both horror fans, and I know that you love him, so if you could ask him a question, what would you ask?" And I was like, I would love to ask him, how close does he feel to being Pinhead, or the character Pinhead? Like, you know how when Angelina Jolie was giving her first few interviews about the first Maleficent movie, and she said she felt like she wasn't acting because she was just being herself, and that's how close she felt to the character, how she felt like she wasn't doing a good enough job because she wasn't doing anything. She was just being her own personality, which fits the personality of Maleficent. Sorry, I'm dyslexic. She saw herself as Maleficent, the role. They have the same personality. So I kind of wanted to ask, how does he feel when it comes to Pinhead? Does he feel like he's close to being Pinhead? And she was like, "Oh, okay, that's a really cool question." And like a couple of days later, she sent me a text message and she's like, "You should check your email." And I'm like, "Okay." And then there it was. There was a video of him replying to that question. And it was like this 5-minute long video. It wasn't even like just hushing some random question. Like, he took his time to reply to my question, and he was so sweet. Gosh, I like him so much. It's like he's so adorable. And I'm so sorry. And he just said like something like, "Oh, I hope not, because he's a terrible person, but he's a fair person, and I think if we share anything, it would probably be our sense of humor." I feel like we have the same sense of humor, and I was like, "Oh my god, he actually replied to my question." And every time that I feel a little like stressed out or like low, I will replay that video in my phone, and he's like, "Hi, Beatrice. I hope I'm saying your name right." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's so cute." So that's the closest. He probably doesn't even know who I am, or maybe he's seen the tattoo because it's gone viral a few times. Um, so I don't know. That's the only experience I've had with it.
Well, that's awesome, and I think you touched on that. It may have been last time we talked a little. You mentioned some kind of interaction that came through an email. I remember with him. So
Maybe
it may
that
have
was
been
it.
that. But and I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but when I interviewed him face to face, I just did an audio one. This is back in 2012 at a horror convention.
Oh my god.
The thing that, and I'll be completely honest with anybody watching this right now or watching this down the road. When I interview people, especially back then when I was kind of starting out, when a guest would tell me, no one's ever asked me that question, I was always like, yes, I got something that they haven't been asked before. That's always a huge plus for an interviewer, in my opinion. And the question I asked him was about that I knew when he was given the choice of roles, and you probably already know this, dude, being a huge fan of his,
yeah,
between the Cenobite or the moving guy, he was thinking about picking the moving guy. And so my question to him in person was, where do you think your career would have been had you have chosen the moving guy instead of the Cenobite? And that's when he said, no one's ever asked me that. And he had to think about it because he came from a theater background. Yeah, exactly. That's how I was feeling inside. I was like trying to be all cool and collected, and I'm going, yeah. And he said, what? I don't really know. So I probably would have been right back to theater, and all of this Hellraiser stuff probably wouldn't have existed, and everything that's happened to him all these decades later, from fans and conventions and everything else that he's done, it probably wouldn't be there. And so it came down to that little moment of like, which direction do I go? And he picked that one. And little did he know what it was going to do for him. And he's, like you said, he's such a friendly, smart, witty, kind man. And so I will always revere having that time. I still have that audio interview. I have the whole thing that we did. Actually, with anyone that I ever talked to, I have all of those audio interviews. So I can, just like you, I can listen back to them every now and then. Like, this puts me into a happy place. And when I listen to these things, so, and I see Ove's asking you about which Hellraiser movie is your favorite.
I cannot answer that question. How very dare you? How very dare you ask that question? I will always have to say that the very first one is my first, just because it was the first of all the Hellraisers that I saw, and it was what made me fall in love with Pinhead was that very first movie. And I don't remember exactly what went through my head because I was a kid, but I remember just like, what the fuck am I looking at? And when I was a little kid, I would love horror movies. I was terrified of them. I was scared shitless. And I remember my mom being like, if you're so scared, why do you keep watching them? They're scary. Why are you watching them? And I was like, I can't stop. It's like, and that was one of the movies. Like, of course, I felt terrified because I was a little kid, and I was like, the fuck is this shit? But it made me fall in love, completely in love. And once I watched it, I couldn't stop. Like, I just had to keep on going and going. And then, of course, I developed a little bit of a obsession with horror movies, and that's why most of my pictures are horror related, just like the one you have here on the background of our stream. And it will always be that one for that first reason. It was like what made me feel so, I'm gonna say, attracted to horror. So
there you go, Ove. So clearly Beatrice has a love of many of the films in the series, but if she had to pick one, she's picking the first one. And I think I mentioned this too, that I had seen the first one in the theater when it came out because that's how old I am. And I still
You're
remember
not old.
this.
Don't say that.
Tell that to my body and my joints.
He's not true.
But it was the over.
You're
like,
young at
7
heart,
months.
and that's what matters.
That is true. I totally agree with you there. That will never change. That's part of who I am. It's part of the kid side of me. But yeah, I remember seeing that, and it was so unique. It was like, and I had watched horror films up to that point because VHS had been out since the early '80s or late '70s, and so I just had never seen anything like that. The whole aesthetic of it, and there's like this underlying, sexual tension and the gore and all these kind of different worlds. And so that's when I really started getting into Clive Barker's books. I said, I need to read this stuff to see, who's the crazy fucker that's coming up with this stuff visually. And then you read his books and you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's that much more so because of the detail and your creative mind's eye and all that kind of thing. And if I remember right, I'm almost positive I saw the second one in the same theater too. I saw Hellraiser 2 there. But my question for you, and forgive me if you've already done this, but have you done any kind of photo shoot yourself that was your version of a Cenobite? Not necessarily Pinhead, but if you're going to be a Cenobite, have you done something like that? And if not,
so sorry.
Go
I was
go
already
ahead.
like, I've always wanted to do one, and I've worked with this brand called All You Need Is Gloves, and the guy is a guy from France. He does latex gloves. And I sent him a drawing of what I would like to be my version of Pinhead's gloves. Like, the way that they have the fingers cut up but I wanted it to be like, I don't want to reveal. But he since has never been, he was like, I love this. I will gift them to you, like, so that you can do this photo shoot. And then I never got them. And it's been like a few years and he never sent them to me. From time to time, I'll ask him like, hey, can I, like, I will pay for them. That's why I asked you. And he's like, no, I will gift them to you. I will send him this month. And then like he hasn't sent them yet. It's been like a couple of years, but I mean, whatever. Life is tough. But I feel like for me to do a Cenobite inspired shooting, which I know what I want to do, it has to be perfect to the detail. It cannot be just like, oh, I'm just gonna throw some stuff together and like use this old thing and that old thing. Like I cannot do that. So I need to have every single little detail ready for me to portray myself as a proper Cenobite and not like just some whatever thing. So I'm waiting on that to arrive. Once that arrives, I know exactly what I'm gonna do. And you know that I've always been so in love with the aesthetic of the movie, and just like you said, there's like so much like sexual tension in that movie. It's like it's so crazy. It's like, or at least to me, and it made me feel like. I mean, I remember I did one interview where I said that Doug Bradley as Pinhead was my first male crush. And there were actually some people quite upset that I said male crush. I don't really understand why, because I'm allowed to have crushes on both men and women, so shut the fuck up. But I like it so much that I've always wished that my band we could all look like Cenobites. But I mean, also I feel like that aesthetic in metal is more associated with the industrial style of metal, kind of like Rammstein, and we don't play music like that, so it wouldn't fit with the music that we're doing. And this is one of the things that we have been having going on with Okkultist, is that I have been creating loads of visual things for Okkultist myself by my own hands, so that next year we can have a different level of shows. And I'm bringing a lot of Hellraiser-ish ideas onto the stage and onto the visuals that we're going to produce. So that's how much sorry, I went on a tangent there.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, there's a couple of questions that come to mind based on what you just said. And one of them to me is, do you ever do any kind of art that is thrown together? I don't think you do. I can't think of anything I've ever seen of yours that was like, oh yeah, I just kind of slapped this together. I'd be kind of hard pressed to think of anything you've done like that. I don't think you do your business that way.
No, never. I like to take care to the detail, and I think this has been my way of coping with OCD when it comes to creating stuff. It's almost like it's the same as with my paintings. It's kind of like I'm painting and I need to tell myself when to stop or else I'm going to ruin that. It's like the detail has to be perfect or else I can't even look at the painting. And the same happens with my pictures. If they're not perfect to every single detail, I refuse to put out like half-assed shit, and I refuse to not do perfect pictures. Like if they cannot be good, you know, I won't do them. So I don't, throw stuff together and be like, whatever, I'll just use this old crap. Like I can't do that. It's like it has never crossed my mind to do something like that. I think the closest, I guess, would be when I have commissions and I have a really tight deadline and they're like, "Can you do this?" And I'm like, "Fuck. I can if I use A, B, and C. Do you want me to do that?" And then they're like, "Yeah, I'll do that." But then still I have to have like, my pictures never look the same way twice. Like I don't do that. So there's always a way of going around that. But that's the closest of being thrown together, which I don't do, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, again, that's when you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, I can't ever see you doing anything like that. Um, and the other thing I think is that sounds really, really interesting of what you have in store for fans to see when Ockultist is playing live, and if there's another video in the works and all that kind of thing of what you're thinking about visually of how you want the band presented, and having some of that Hellraiser world influence come into it. So that sounds fucking awesome. So.
I'm trying my best because everything related to Ockultist, the band is like self-sufficient, but we never have like enough budget for us to do big productions. We're not a big band. We don't bring, like, to be honest, I'm not allowed to talk about these things. We don't ever have a budget for anything. I mean, shit, we're small. Everything that we do ourselves, or sometimes I even finance myself like stuff for us, which I'm still happy to do because I love my band and I love my bandmates and I want us to do the best that we can. So it's so hard, and I have all these amazing ideas that I want to bring together. This is so hard to talk about things I'm not allowed to talk about. But I'm working as hard as I can to bring these visuals together with no budget at all so that we can still have almost like a DIY badass look that is very Hellraiser-ish or inspired by Hellraiser. Oh, my bad. Yeah, but it's coming along. It's I've been working on stuff for us for months now, and I'm hoping that everything will be ready on time for whenever it is time for you guys to see this. Oh my god, it's so hard. This is so hard. But yeah.
Okay. Well, no, and it reminds me of a lot of the independent filmmakers I've had the pleasure of talking to, that they had like basically no budget, and so they had to force them to get creative in how they were going to produce their movies and everything else. And sometimes some of the best stuff comes out of those because you are forced to figure out, how am I going to do this? I have all these grand ideas in my head, but I've got like $0 in the bank account. So how do I make this work where I'm still okay with it? Because if I don't like it, then I'm just basically not going to do it. And it's always inspiring me to hear from all kinds of different artistic people, but specifically the film folks have talked about that multiple times, where like the one gentleman that I talked to, it took him 14 years to get his first feature actually done. I mean, it was like constant barricades and barriers and shit, people pulling out, that were going to financially back it. And then, casting had to change because those people's schedules aren't. It's just like, oh my God. So, I mean, that's how much of a passion project it was for him, that he would not let it go until he started getting this thing together. It got edited, went to the film festival circuit, got picked up by a studio, and then he's talking to someone like me about it. And so like, it was so wonderful and inspiring to hear that kind of thing. So I think for fans and new fans of Ockultist, that they all totally understand that you're going to put out what you feel is the best representation of the band, doing the best you can with what you got. That's basically what it comes down to.
Exactly. And we've always been like that. And I've always been like that too for my projects. It's everything that you see, there's no budget for any of these things. These are things that I come up with, stuff that I have at home, or things that I put together myself, things that I built too. Um, and that's how occultists have always been. And I just want to take that aesthetic that we have, the DIY aesthetic. I mean, clearly, because we're so small, but I want to take that to a different level. And so this whole year, pretty much, I've been working on stuff for us, visual stuff or physical stuff too. I'm not going to say what it is, what's it for. But I've been building and investing a lot of time in creating things for us. I want this to be, and this is a new chapter for Occultist, and I want this to be so much bigger than we maybe thought it could be. And it's coming along just so nicely, and we're all just so vibing in we're all in the same page, and we're all and this is the thing that I also love about Occultist is they trust me, and they trust in my art, they trust in my skills, and I come up with ideas and I'll tell them, we should do this. Can we do this? Like for us, do you mind if I go ahead and do this? And they're all like, just do it. Just go ahead and do it. And I immediately start doing things, and they really like it, and they're very supportive. And our new lineup, or the lineup that we currently have, is we're all just so in tune, and things are flowing so well and relatively fast compared. And the fact that all of us are on the same page, and then they trust me completely to do the visuals and to create things, it's also very well, because then I don't have any limits, and they like what I do, they like my art, and they of course trust and respect what I do, that there's like no conflict at all. I'm telling you, like I come up with these ideas like, we should make this, can I do it? And they're like, just do it. And sometimes they're like, do you need help? And I'm like, no help, I'll do it. I can do it, I don't need your help, I can do it. And then we're all just super happy with the results, and I'm so excited to just put this. I just want people to, I cannot wait for people to see everything that's been in the making this whole year. I know that people have this misconception that Occultist is a band that is very quiet, that we don't do a lot of things, or that we don't play a lot. But to me, you don't need to talk about the things that you're doing. Just let the success speak for itself. And if we've been silent, it's because there's something going on in the back scenes. It's like if we're quiet, it's because we're working, and we've been all working very, very hard in things, and the results are coming through. And I'm so excited about the future of Occultist and the way that things are. Again, this is so hard because there are things that I'm not allowed to say. And I'm trying really hard not to spill it all out when I'm not supposed to. But just know that there's a lot that's been going on behind the scenes, and I'm so excited.
That's awesome. And I think most people would understand that, we'll get to experience it when we get to experience it. And it's not right now. And I think that's a piece of perhaps where social media has really been a detriment to things, because people want to know immediately what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if they don't hear it from you, they think, oh, they're just kind of defunct now. They're just kind of doing whatever, or they're not together, or they're just being lazy. It's like, you have no clue. And you don't really need to know every little fucking detail about a band, an artist, an actor, a filmmaker. It's like they're doing their thing at in their time. And when it's ready to come out, it comes out. And some people really need to learn some patience, because this is just my own personal soapbox, but it drives me nuts. I mean, even like for myself, when I was in the process of moving last month and dismantling 24 years of my life from my old home to this home, I can't be online checking everything and answering your questions about stuff. And it's just like, I'm not trying to be rude. It's just like, I have other priorities right now. And when I'm back to being settled in, which was one of the first things I did, was get this stuff all situated here in the new place so I could go back to doing the live stream world, then I would do it. But just understand, I don't have a timeline for it. It's just like, I still haven't been back to a live concert yet. I have not covered one yet. And the opportunities have been there. They've been there since October for me to be back in a photo pit and, interviewing bands in person. And it'll happen when it feels right to me. And maybe that'll be this month, maybe that'll be next month, maybe it'll be next year. I don't know yet. I'm slowly working my way back into in-person events on the art side. So I was at the Seattle Opera, was at a local theater production. I'm going to be at the Broadway at the Paramount musical this Tuesday. So this is all stuff since I haven't been back since before the pandemic. But I'm doing it in my time. You can't force me to do something based on maybe your heart's in the right place. You just really love the content that I do. Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. But understand, I'm a person and I have a life and I have a balance. And so when stuff comes out, I really appreciate when people are there, but also understand sometimes I'm just taking even just some time for myself. It could be. So in the Ockultist case, it sounds like there's a bunch of stuff brewing. It's there. And when it comes out to hit us in the face, then it's going to come out and hit us over the head with it, and we'll be like, holy shit. And that's awesome. And I do see Ed mentioned this a little while ago about that you gifted Tara, his wife, a beautiful painting that's amazing, hanging in the bedroom. So that's awesome. And I would love to see a picture of that if you ever get a chance to DM me a picture of the painting that you have. That's awesome. I have
so sweet. Ed asked me to do a painting for her because she's like, Tara loves your stuff. Like, she loves your stuff. Like, can you do something for her? And I was like, yes, I'll do it. I'll do something. And I painted a vampire mouth with like fangs and drool and blood. I thought it was hot. Vampires are hot, and Tara is like hot. So I wanted to give a hot girl a hot painting. And because I love her, of course, she's always so sweet. Like, I cannot wait for a day that I do get to meet Tara and hug her. So that's so sweet. Thank you. I didn't know where did you guys put it, but that makes me so happy.
That's awesome. Now I really want to see it, Ed. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to show me a picture of this vampire mouth painting. And you said something really interesting too about that you didn't know where they'd put it in their home. There's a local artist. When I went to her studio, she was like, Mark, if you're ever interested in purchasing one of my pieces, or if you want to commission something, I'm always interested to see like where you're going to live with it. That was the wording that she used. And I'm like, I never thought about that. It's like, from the artist side of things, they kind of want to know, where is this going to kind of be in your life? Are you going to stick it on this wall, that wall? What's around it? And I just had never thought about that. And that was quite a few years ago that Andy, who's still a wonderful artist here, and say hi, Andy, had mentioned that to me. And the very first cover of Eclectic Arts, the fanzine, the chunk of it was a black and white of part of one of her big 4-foot by 4-foot paintings she had done. So she okayed me to use part of that for the actual art. And a lot of people don't know that. So that's actual somebody's huge piece of art that she allowed me to use as part of the cover. And Ed, Mark, you must come to any show I'm doing in Seattle. Yeah, brother. Just maybe that's what it's going to be. Maybe it's going to take somebody that I know to see them again in person, and that'll get my ass to a show. And I just had my booster shot this past week, so I'm actually three doses of stuff in me. So
I've only had 2.
Yeah, see, I qualify based on age and an underlying medical condition, so that's how I got it. And I didn't have any kind of side effects to it or anything like that. So
that's good.
Yeah, and truth be told, the first show that I was approved to shoot and everything was Judas Priest in October. And the morning I got approved, then that afternoon is when all that horrible stuff happened with Richie having to go to the hospital for his heart condition, and he almost didn't make it. So I understand 1,000% why they had to postpone those dates. But I was kind of like, yes, this will be my first time back into a live concert of any kind. And then it's like, well, is that some sort of weird omen that he got postponed? But thank goodness that he's doing better and on the mend, and they'll be back rocking out, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, in the meantime, yeah, Ed, so I just have to know, man, when your band, whichever band you're with, is going to be hitting my neck of the woods, because all of the venues around here are open doing shows, from El Corazon to the new Crocodile. I know you've been to the old Crocodile. The new location, I think, is officially open now, and all the other ones too. So, and maybe if we ever get a chance that Okkultist gets themselves over to the U.S., that would be amazing to have you touring here in the U.S.
We would love to tour the U.S. and we have. When we look at the, how do you say, the geo graph, where most fans are, most of them are in the US. It's like a crazy amount. It's something like over 50% of the people that listen to our stuff are in the US. And we have like so many requests, comments, messages, emails, and people like, just come to the US, and we're like, we want to, but we don't have money. um I'm so hoping that we can do that eventually, tour the US, and we have bands that want to play with us, and they're constantly messaging us and like saying that they want to play together, and I'm like, I want to do that so bad. We don't have money. Right now we can't. But I'm so hoping that we can go there. And man, I'm just so excited to start playing shows.
Well, and I think, what's really been great is that there's so many extreme metal bands that I'm thinking back even more than 10 years ago, where it was pretty rare to see some of these bands on an actual tour in the US. You might see them doing a couple shows here and there, kind of like promo shows and that kind of thing. But now it's very, very regular that you can have these really great bills of extreme metal bands of could be death metal, black metal, little goth stuff in there, all mixed together and hitting the road. Let alone if we're talking about bands from other countries. And granted, it's a little tougher to travel, I think, for most just people in general if they're not from their home country or what have you. But we'll get there. We'll get there to a point where occultists will be able to post on their social media or on their website or whatever and say, finally, we're coming to kick your ass in the U.S. and we're hitting New York and working their way around and coming up to hopefully the Northwest, to Seattle where I am, and everywhere else.
We would love to. And it's just like you were saying, people sometimes forget that we're people, and the fact that we don't seem active publicly, doesn't mean that we're not working hard. We're working so hard, and like most of our boys have daytime jobs, so that makes it really complicated as well. But I'm so hoping that I feel like we're going at a fast pace, but like a good pace. Like since we're all, like I was telling you, we're all in sync and tuned in, and everybody's on the same page now. It's such a great lineup, and I love them so much, and I'm so proud of them. And I'm hoping that we are able to go there. I mean, it's not going to be soon, but sooner than we probably thought. So, I mean, we've been working really hard, and I felt like at least the pandemic was the right time to do that. Because would you imagine if, everything was regular and we could travel and we could play shows regularly, even though we can't still? I think it would be much harder because then you would have to deal with all of that at the same time, and then it would take time away to be creative behind the scenes. So I feel like this was the perfect time for us to work hard secretly and then let everybody just like blow everybody away with the stuff that we got coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to go to the US sooner than we thought.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense because some of the artists during the last year and a half have decided to, we always talk about when are we going to get a break to focus in on some of the things that we want to do. Well, here's that time to actually start to do it so that you can hit the ground running when things make sense. And other people for their various reasons chose not to do that kind of thing. And I've kind of harped on about this once concerts started coming back. But I was always like, I've talked to many guests, and they would always say, especially during the heart of the pandemic, about, wow, I've had so much time to reflect. There's things I want to do differently when we get out there. I can't wait to get back on the road. I miss it so much. And then you see them. Now that I haven't seen them in person, I'm talking about like things on YouTube or online. It's like, okay, so what's different? This looks exactly like what I saw in 2019. You're even wearing the same fucking clothes on stage, even like a little accent, anything. I'm not talking about something that's big money or anything else. Can you wear a different vest? Can you change the set list a little bit? Anything. But I think people were just so comfortable of like, finally, we got the green light. We can go back on the road and do stuff on stage. It's like, did you kind of forget what you were thinking about 9 months ago? That you were going to try to make some changes? Well, now's the time to put that into action, and you're not doing it. And again, I'm just on a soapbox and some ding dong over in Seattle, so my opinion doesn't really matter, but it bugs me because I notice that because some people have changed. They have put some things in there about how they're doing their business, and that I love seeing that they actually thought about, I think we want to be a little bit more mindful about maybe causes that we support or things that we're more vocal about, and they're actually doing it. So I like that kind of thing. Doesn't matter if I agree with it. I just like the fact that they're doing it, and versus the other ding dongs, they're like, Yeah, it's still 2019, and we're still fucking doing the same 5, 10, 15 songs, and we haven't changed the set list in 20 years. I'm like, come on, please do something.
Exactly. That's why we like to keep it down low and be like, you'll see what we're doing.
Yeah, and to kind of, I see that Ove had asked a question a while ago about what would be your pain or pleasure of choice as a Cenobite. Ooh,
Oh my God. I don't know. Like I said, there's like so much sexual tension in that movie. I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that over here. I really don't know how. I honestly don't know how to answer. Like, it's one of those things, just like, take me, just fucking take me. Sorry.
well,
oh my God. Hi, Tara.
Yeah, I see Tara's joining us.
Oh, so cute. Thank you for being here. Sorry, I just had to say hi.
Yeah, no, hi Tara. Great having you join us. And I think I would flip it back to Ove. What would be your pain or pleasure? Because I'm in the same boat, Beatrice. I'm not really sure what I would pick. So maybe if Ove gives us his his choice, it'll kind of spark something in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Or yeah, or goes way off the rails into some area that I don't want to talk about right now. But kind of bringing things back with what you do with Ockultist and also with all of your own artistic work. How has your Patreon been going? And I know that's something you're active with. And is it fulfilling you in the way that you wanted to? Is it driving you nuts? A little bit of both. How is your Patreon and all your followers?
I really like Patreon, and we have a little Patreon family there, and I think it's so sweet. You know, it makes me think of like the same way as we were talking about the animals. It's kind of like when you transmit a certain vibe and a certain energy onto the universe, then the universe sends it back to you. And I feel like we have such a sweet group of people, and they're all like so nice and so awesome and so cool. I love spending time with them. I share everything with them. Everything that I'm working on, I share them. Sometimes I even share more personal things, ways that I'm feeling, or as a way to inspire them. And we get together every now it's Friday, but it used to be every Saturday, and we play games together and we just chill and talk. And some of the people who are on Patreon don't like the interaction just because it's a little overwhelming for them. So I stream that at the same time so that the ones who don't want to interact can just watch and enjoy. And I will leave it up there and they can replay as many times as they want. But we get together every single week and we have a little game night. We usually play Among Us, but I'm trying to find other games that we can play. I've actually been thinking about Phasmophobia, which is a ghost hunting game where you have like multiplayer, so everybody can join in and hunt for ghosts and maybe die in the game. I don't know. I love horror games, so at first I was just streaming, and I was streaming myself playing Amnesia, which I love those games. I was doing the Dark Descent, and then I did the Machine for Pigs, and uh it was scary. I've had played them before, but they're so intense that we had a good time because I was just shit my pants. Just jump scares and shit, and they would really like it. And then we started playing together. And it's so good because we just get to chill and we're on Discord and we all have the voice channel on, and we're all just chatting and relaxing all together, and we're sharing things, and we have like so many channels about, I don't know, pets, memes, tattoos, and we spend so much time together. I will say I'm more active with them through Discord than I am on Instagram. For example, like I will check Discord more times than I will check Instagram. And I just like them so much. They're all just so sweet and they're so supportive. And every time that I post something about my art that I want to have an opinion on, then they're always there, and they're so supportive and so sweet all the time. I love them. Patreon has been awesome as well. It brings me so much joy.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and it's cool that that you interact with them so frequently. I think the artists that use Patreon correctly, like yourself, that they make it a priority because people are supporting you. So it's kind of like, well, this is why they signed up for different levels, instead of like, well, let me get your money and then I might, interact with you when I can. It's like, well,
Yeah.
that's not really a cool business transaction. But and it also that you got the right people, like you said, the right energies there with them. So there's also a really wonderful group of supporters. And really quickly, speaking of supporters, hi Steve, I want to say hi to you. I see that you have to go. Steve's been a huge supporter of my channel, and actually, for people that don't know, shameless plug, that this cost me money to do. So Steve is the one who actually covered the cost for the entire year of 2021 single-handedly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so Steve's a huge supporter, and anytime somebody wants to make a tip or donation, the PayPal link is right in the YouTube description. I am a guy living in a one-bedroom hobbit hole, so I don't have disposable income, but that's only if you're so inclined and if you're in a position to do so. I would never want to ask somebody for something that they're not in a position or to do anything with. But and so as we kind of get closer to wrapping this up, what kind of things have you learned over the last year and a half for yourself about anything that we've talked about, things you haven't mentioned? What kind of other things would you want to put out there to people that can learn, listen, or reflect on?
I think that's tough because I could think about a lot of things. I felt like in the last year I had to learn how to put myself first and not constantly be available for other people and not constantly put my heart out in ways that sometimes will not be reciprocated. And I had to understand that sometimes I just need to stop myself from doing those things. And like I said earlier, I had to learn how to be selfish and how to say no. And I had to learn how to pull myself out of situations that are not meant for me or places that are not for me and places that I just have to walk out of by myself and grow out of and understand that I deserve better than, you know. So that was definitely my biggest lesson is to it definitely taught me that I will never again in my life doubt anything about myself. I'm at a place right now that I feel so happy at and so strong at. I feel like there's nothing in the world that could come over and that would shake me. I would I would not move one bit, you know. It definitely taught me how to be or how to understand how strong I can be. And it definitely taught me that I deserve to be happy and I deserve to be surrounded by people I like and I deserve to be comfortable and at peace. And that I deserve good things, man. I'm a good person. I deserve good things. I don't deserve shitty things. So for a while I was like, oh, maybe this is what I deserve. And then I was like, fuck no. I'm a good person. I deserve better. And I went after that and I went after the things that I want to be better for me. And like we've been talking this whole time, I started putting that into the universe and started acting towards the things that I deserve. And they started coming my way immediately. The second I changed my mindset and the second that I started going after the things that I want for myself, they made their way to me. And for example, one of the things I've always wanted to do is to act. And I've had so many beautiful opportunities um during the pandemic. And one of the things was this actress that I love is directing an indie horror movie. And I remember thinking the night before, you know, like, fuck, I wish I could act, but like on like a cool project. And then I woke up the next day and early in the morning, I had a message from her saying like she found me on Instagram and how she wanted me to have a part in her movie. And I was like, what? Are you serious? Like I almost had a heart attack. But I couldn't make it because of COVID and the borders were closed. The borders just now open. And I couldn't do it. But she was like, no, in the future, we should definitely work together. So the moment I started, I changed my mind into the things that I want and the things that make me happy. I'm telling you, they all started making their way to me and just like the animal sanctuary and everything and a lot of other things that I'm not allowed to talk about. um it all started happening, and that's what I've been doing this whole time. I've been going in that direction, in the things that I want for myself and the things that make me happy, and everything that is not serving me, cut it out. It's like, is it making me miserable? Is it making me sad? I don't want it. Fuck that. Like, get the fuck out of the way, you know? And yeah, that's definitely what changed for me, and it also helped me professionally, because then I started saying no to opportunities that were making me sad. Not sad because I don't get sad with work, but that make me like, oh, now I got to do this, you know? Like, now every time that an opportunity that is not fulfilling me comes along, I'm just like, no, sorry, I can't do it. And that allowed me to have time to work on projects that I want and that make me happy and make me fulfilled. Just like painting. Like, I started painting in December, and I had to say no. Like, at that time, what I did was I cut off all the work I was doing with photos. I was like, I don't want to work with anybody anymore. I can't do this. Like, that year was miserable for me. And I was so sad. And I was like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to work with anybody. I don't want to do anything. And I just dived into painting, and it honestly healed me a lot. And it's really my happy places, the paintings where I get to isolate myself and create things with a type of media that I hadn't worked with in many years. And it also opened doors professionally, and I got in contact with painters that I've admired that say they admire me, and I'm like, sorry, how is this possible? Like, are you serious? Like, what is going on? So that is something that I definitely learned last year, and that I hope it inspires other people to do, which is, you do the things that make you happy. Surround yourself with the people that make you happy. If something or someone is making you feeling like shit, they don't deserve to be in your life. It doesn't matter like how much you devote your time into, and I see this a lot professionally. It doesn't matter. Like, is it making you happy? That's the first question that you have to ask for yourself. And that's something that I didn't do for a long time. Like, I wasn't questioning, like, is this where I want to be? Is this what I want? So I had to learn how to be selfish like that, and how to say no, and how to walk out of situations that I was feeling bad and or that I felt attached to in a certain way. I had to learn how to walk out of them just because I was either not treated right or feeling sad or whatever the fuck it was, you know? So yeah, it helped me a lot in so many ways that I feel so enlightened right now. It's like, because, I mean, sorry, I'm going like in a circles, but it's like, yeah, the moment I started just chasing after the things that I want and make me happy, everything changed. Like, I'm on cloud nine, completely cloud nine. So I just hope that whoever is out there listening to this takes this for themselves, as in, you know, always think about yourself first. Do it for you. Do it for your pleasure. Do it for your happiness. Because this is your life and nobody else's life. Nobody gets to say anything about your life. You know, so I'm really happy that I learned how to be selfish and how to love myself first and to put myself first. And honestly, I don't think I've ever felt this good about myself in every single aspect. So I hope everybody can feel this way as well.
Well, that's beautiful, and it's as you found out, so empowering when you say no, when you put yourself first, when you take care of yourself, when you really do, like, such wise words, when you really put together, you know, what makes me happy. So if someone presents you with an opportunity that might seem, you know, really great, but it's like, is that really going to make me happy doing that? And that could be on any aspect of life. Anyone watching this right now, watching it later, you know, you might be in your, whatever your walk of life is, doing something, and someone presents you with something, you're kind of like, oh yeah, I should do that because I know so-and-so. But is that really what you want to be doing? And you have to kind of, you have to stop and kind of, and it's hard to do for some people, to stop and kind of take a step back and think, do I really want to be doing this? And if it is, great, then go ahead and do it. But if it's not, then don't feel obligated to do it. Don't feel like there's some sort of pressure, like you have to do it. It's like, no, just cut it loose, yep. Cut that cord, and move on to all the other things that you're getting pleasure out of in life. And as Steve mentioned, you know, this is after the first no, the rest are easy. And it's true. And I think for someone like yourself, Bia, that too, who's a really kind, empathetic, caring person, it's hard to be as you put it, selfish because you feel like you're doing something wrong. There's almost like some guilt associated with it. Like now I'm feeling like I'm not extending myself to help some of these people that could use my help. In reality, you're not helping anybody, including yourself. And that's a hard lesson to learn, but I'm so glad that you got to a point in your life where you're like, you know what? This is what I need to start doing. I need to put myself number one, and then everything else will kind of fall around with it. And like you said multiple times during this live stream, look what happened with your life. Look what all these opportunities that you've been wanting to do, if it's acting, if it's with a sanctuary, if it's with anybody else, that these things start coming your way. And it's like, oh, there's something to this. If I keep following this particular path, this is probably the path I should have been on all along. I just didn't know it at the time. And that's no fault of anyone's, including yourselves. It's just like, it takes time to kind of figure those things out. I know I've said this many times that I was not the same person 15 years ago that I am now. I wasn't even the same person probably 5 years ago that I am now. And so moving further into the future, I don't know necessarily what I'll be like when I'm 55 or 60 or something like that. But I do know in my gut, when I feel good about a path that I'm on, the people that I associate with, the people that I surround myself with in real life. And that tells me this is right. And when it feels wrong, I don't sit there and try to make sense of it or try to like massage it to make it make sense. No, I just cut it out. It's gone. I'm not going to bother with that anymore. And just to use another example, it could be like chasing after guests. I used to do this all the time. Like, let me follow up with so-and-so. And maybe they showed that their communication is really poor. And it could be for any legitimate reason. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, at some point I have to say no, value myself and my time a little bit more and say, you know what? There's a lot of people that don't do that. I can reach out to a publicist about an actor or something and boom, there it is on the schedule. But there's also other people that, having said all this, I know their situations and I understand why maybe they can't connect with me at that point. That's fine. But these other people over here in this other category over here in the corner, you need to stay in that corner over there instead of me trying to reach and pull you back out because it just doesn't work. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But it sure has made my life better. It really has. I'm sure you've heard about when people talk about like cutting toxic people. I also say cutting toxic situations out of your life. It makes a huge world of difference in everything that you do. And you'll find that time that you're spending with those toxic situations and people, it gets filled up with joy, it gets filled up with pleasure, it gets filled up with great memories and further networking and these other opportunities that come that like, wow, I was wasting so much time with something that now it's getting filled with all these great things. I want to keep doing this. I have to keep doing this. And it's proof's been in the pudding. Look, things have been happening. I mean, I think back about, we have a history going back to 2018. When we did that, I think a 5-minute interview on the tour bus. And I still remember the tour manager who is, doing his time in the Navy right now, about, he came out and told me, Mark, make sure the questions are kind of easy because it's been a really long day. And I know you had traveled and all this other kind of stuff, and keep it short. And I was like, no problem. I'll make sure that I do exactly what you said. And that's what I tried to stay with. And then, last year and this year, here we are again. And obviously, we personally have both grown in our respective paths, professionally and personally. And I think it's really great that you just wish, that people listening and watching this right now are going to take a page from your book and hopefully start incorporating that into their own life, especially if they're in a place that's not so good right now. And it doesn't have to stay that way. It will get better, but you do have to make some changes. And that's on you, whatever those changes happen to be. We can't tell you what to change, but it can make things feel better.
Exactly. And I'm just nodding and agreeing because it's everything that you're saying. And 1 year ago, I used to be the person who I would put myself and my needs last. And I would always be selfless and do it for the sake of others. And whenever something was going not so well, I would try to fix it. I would try to amend it, and I would go out of my way. It doesn't matter how unhealthy and toxic it was for me, to deal with those situations. I would always go all out to try to fix or try to be as helpful as I can. And it got to a point where I just had to be like, you know what? It's not my job to fix this. I'm not a nurse, And I had to just walk out and be like, stop trying to fix this, or just stop, And it's just professionally, mostly, there's so many things that I was so unhappy with, and I had to like recycle what I was doing. Like I had months where I had to stop, especially like around the time where we had our interview, and that's why I was. Well, at the time I was saying I feel so great. I wasn't really great, to be honest, but like those last 4 months of the year, I didn't work like I used to work, and it was kind of like I think around December was the time when it clicked in my head that I had to change the way that I was thinking and the way that I was living life, you know, and it was the moment that I decided that, you know what, I need to stop pleasing everybody around me and start just doing it for me, because it's my life and no one else's life, just like I said. And I tell you, like, the moment I stopped everything that I was doing, all the pictures, all like everything, it was the second that all these amazing opportunities like landed. And it really did feel like it was the universe saying, like, this is the right path for you. It's not where you were before. And it doesn't matter how right it felt at the time. It doesn't matter how hard you worked to make things work, you know, it was not the right thing for you. And I'm going to be as honest as I can, Mark. I really feel like I dodged a bullet. It's like exactly how it feels today. And the moment I started seeing things just like you're saying, all these amazing, incredible opportunities that I still work with today, just like landed, and I still today I feel so speechless about them. And I also like connected with people that I've admired since I was like a young teenager, you know. I don't know, like, for example, sometimes I receive love from people like Doro, and I'm like, Doro, like, I love you. Like, I mean, it was one of the first female singers that I got into when I was a kid, when I first realized that women could do rock and metal. And to receive love from someone like Doro, it just makes me like scream. So stuff like that started happening a lot. And it also, then I got the video from Doug Bradley, and all that kind of stuff started happening. And I was like, okay. And it keeps on happening more and more and more and more quickly too. Like the second I think it, then the next minute it's there almost. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I've had experiences that made me understand that I deserve better and that I deserve greatness in life. And we all do. I'm not being just like talking about me. It's like everybody should think like this. Everybody should understand that we are all worthy of being happy, and we are all worthy of good things. And like, the more you work towards putting that into the universe will then send that back to you. Like, we are, it's like our own, the way that we are, it's our own extension onto the universe, and then it will always find its way back to us. And that is always why I've never been the kind of person to feel worried about anything, because I've always known deep down, I've always did everything with the best of my intentions. And it doesn't matter how mean people were to me, I was never able to be mean back. And so I've never been worried about that. And it started just this year. It was like completely, it flipped. I don't know how to explain this to you. It almost feels like magic. Like the moment I realized, like, did the click in my brain, the things that I deserve and the things that I want for myself, they immediately started like coming up. And I just wish people would have this mindset as well. It's like the moment that they start saying to themselves, you know, I want to be happy, and I want things that make me happy, and I want to live experiences that make me feel happy and fulfilled, then these things will happen, because you start working towards them with this, how do you say, it's like, you know, you have the sense that these things will happen, and then they will, and then they do. So that's what changed to me in this last year, is I became a completely different person. It's like, if I went back a year ago and spoke to me from a year ago, I would be like, you're being so dumb. You're being so dumb. Like, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, get your brain out of this and understand that this is not for you. You deserve, like, I would take my brain and be like, you don't deserve to be here. You deserve to be here. And then I would be like, oh my God. I mean, that's what happened in December. So I just hope that whoever is listening to this can get inspired to just pursue the things that they love and pursue the things that make them happy, because that's what I did and it keeps on getting better. So I just hope that whoever's listening to this can feel happy and understand that they are allowed to feel happy.
Again, it's wise words. It's a beautiful sentiment. And, the only other thing I could add to it would be that there's a gentleman I used to work with who I'd watch him go through his day-to-day life, and I kept thinking, is this guy for real? Or is he kind of like full of crap? And the more I got to know him, the more I realized he's actually for real. And what I mean by this is that he would do things because he genuinely wanted to do them. He was not looking for some sort of return on his investment. He was not looking for like, well, I rubbed your back, so you should rub mine kind of a thing. And he never, ever did that kind of thing. Because out of the blue, for example, he might bring a CD to me of a band I liked. And I didn't even ask him. I mean, we were just talked about it one day. And I said, oh, this is really nice. And that's why I got a little skeptical. I'm kind of like, why did you give this to me? I mean, you want me to, get you something later or buy you lunch or whatever? And I just kind of found out, no, he just enjoys doing it because it felt right to him. And so I started to adopt that mentality myself. And like you're talking about, that's when I started noticing how my life changed. When I started thinking that way, instead of thinking about, well, yeah, keeping tally of like what I did for this friend or this family member or whatever. It's like, no, I choose to do this. I want to do it. It's open-ended. I'm not looking for something to come back my way. And I'm just happy to do it while things changed. It's so interesting, like as we're talking, that when you make a mental shift, whatever that mental shift is, that, and it might sound to some people kind of like hocus pocus or whatever, but it's really true that when you take this shift and you do it, what happens with your life? Again, like Bea was saying, give it a try, whatever that shift is for you, based on what she's saying, what I'm saying, and give it a good month and see what happens with your life and the people you encounter, the opportunities that show up, and you're gonna be like, what the hell? You're onto something. It's like, well, yeah, that's what we're kind of trying to get across to you, that everyone gets stuck in patterns. Humans are creatures of habit. And sometimes those habits are really, really detrimental to your well-being. And if you take the time to make even the slightest change to one of them, watch what happens. I mean, that's all I can say. It's like watch what happens. And that kind of probably sounds like a self-help infomercial or something, but it's true. You got to find out.
That's what we need. Sometimes we just need a little push, and people don't even know that sometimes. So I'm hoping that whoever is listening to us talk about this might be the push that they need to understand how they can be happy. You're like, everyone's allowed to be happy, So you're so right in what you're saying. I couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, I think this is a perfect time to say our goodbyes for now, and wish everybody success that's in the chat, people that are watching this down the road. So thank you for joining us. And Bea, I'm going to ask you really quickly to please stay connected to me once I finish the live stream, because I do want to ask you something. It had nothing to do with what we talked about. I just want to make sure, I want to check on something. But thank you, Beatriz, for taking the time. It's always such a pleasure. I'm so happy that you're in such a good place. It makes me feel good knowing that somebody that I really respect, love, admire, care about is doing so well, because I want, that to the nth degree for you. So I hope that things are just bigger and better and broader and all that kind of thing that can come your way, because you absolutely deserve it. So I just really treasure the time that we've taken today and any time that I've had to talk with you. And I can't wait to be there to help support you in anything that you do, and that always know that I'm always in your corner at all times.
You're making me cry. You're so sweet. Thank you so much for saying that and for all your love. I admire you so much and I respect you so much too. And that's why it always feels so good to come on here and talk to you, because I know that we both have this, I don't know how to explain. It's like there's always something good coming out of these conversations, and there's always like a way to inspire someone out there through interviews, and that's why I love doing them, and that's why you're the only person who I always say yes. It's always such a good time here. I always have so much fun, and I feel so good, and I feel relaxed, and I just love the conversations that we have. And thank you so much for bringing me here once again, and for always being so kind and so sweet, and for always being the best.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, I so appreciate it, and everything that I said, I absolutely mean from the bottom of my heart. So, I think it's almost becomes like, and I think it's a two-way street. It becomes like our own therapy session in some weird way. But it's a way that I love, and again, I absolutely treasure the moments I've had to discuss things with you, from all walks of life, and we just kind of, we find a way to connect about things that are important to us. And like you said, if people out there are getting inspired by anything we've said, that's a win. That's a win across the board. So I wish good things to everybody out there. Beatriz, I want to talk to you real briefly right after we disconnect here. And everybody stay safe out there, and hopefully I get a chance to see you either virtually, see you in person if Ed comes my way, anybody else. And I can't wait to come back and do it all over again. So thank you so much, and have a great day, night over there. It's afternoon here now. Okay.
All right, it's 9 p.m. here.
All right. Yeah, and it's 1:10 over here, so it's the afternoon of Sunday. But thank you again so much, everybody, and stay safe. And I'll see you later. But Beatriz, I'll talk to you real soon, right after I press this button. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining.